3 weeks before the 2018 World Cup got underway in Russia, the eyes of the footballing world were on this place, the Olympic Stadium, or Olimpijski Stadion, in Kiev for the final of the Champions League. 6 years before that, it also staged the memorable final when Spain thrashed Italy in UEFA European Championship 2012. So Ukraine seems to have done quite well out of football in recent years, but now there's rising anger that just over the border, Russia is allowed to stage the world's greatest tournament despite the recent land grab of Ukraine's Crimea and the ongoing war in southeast Ukraine. Now we'll investigate why Ukraine, and in particular some of its footballing authorities, seemed willing to accept Russia as hosts of the World Cup.
And that vote in itself should never have been, Blatter shouldn't have been allowed to get away with it. Because what it basically was the old guys thinking, Christ, I might not be around for the bribe next time, so we'll do 2 lots of bribes.
This is oligarchs prefer to keep them away from political tensions because their business connected with politics, so they prefer to stay away from this.
Ukraine made quite a few statements calling boycott this FIFA World Championship.
Countries like Russia are not averse to using whatever powers they think are appropriate to get in their own way, and that can't be right.
The vote to award Russia the right to host this year's World Cup was taken back in November 2010. It remains shrouded in controversy. FIFA named Russia and Qatar as hosts for 2018 and 2022 respectively. The billion-dollar decision was taken by just 22 men, headed by now disgraced former FIFA president Sepp Blatter. And indeed, many of that FIFA executive committee have since been banned or named in corruption investigations. British journalist Andrew Jennings literally wrote the book on FIFA's corruption.
If Jack Warner and Chuck Blazer, and they did, make the trip to Moscow, they didn't go to discuss football. Warner couldn't care about football. He couldn't care unless there was some money in. And what's interesting was when the CONCACAF did a very limited report, but it was devastating on Chuck Blazer and Salguero, well, he's dead now, I think, and Blazer, well, he's dead as well. That their robbery, their thieving, absolute thieving, was immense. So, of course, they were bent. And I mean, I can, to some extent, understand that football is a Russian sport, genuinely a sport of theirs, but a lot of other contenders as well.
Eventually, with police probes and arrests, FIFA was forced to launch its own investigation. And finally, in 2015, the Garcia report was released, detailing many of the problems. England made its own bid to host the 2018 World Cup, but failed dismally, gaining just 2 of the 22 votes. Former MP Jerry Sutcliffe was the UK Minister of Sport at the time, and it clearly still rankles.
I was pleased that the Garcia report did finally get out, although there's still bits missing, there's still files that have gone missing. And I think it was a massive wake-up call for FIFA, but I'm still not convinced that everything is sorted, whether that's FIFA or UEFA. I think there are big issues in the integrity and governance of sport that needs to be sorted out. I do think that there needs to be a third-party body somewhere, whether that's made up of something of the United Nations or something like that, because this idea of keeping sports and politics separate, I understand the principle of that, but the reality is if you're bidding for a World Cup or if you're bidding for an Olympic Games, it costs the host government or the host city millions of pounds and dollars, and politicians have to be involved because they have to give guarantees on security, they have to give guarantees on infrastructure. So I think that I'm still not convinced that the bidding processes, whether it be FIFA or for other games, is entirely free of some of the things that have happened.
So watching the World Cup, it's clear politics and sport cannot be separated, at least not in this instance. Even after the bidding process was finished, Russia was still mired in controversy. Following the Revolution of Dignity in Ukraine in 2014, Russia annexed Crimea and backed so-called rebels in the Donbass region of Ukraine, causing the war, which is now into its 5th year. Thousands are dead. And human rights defenders say Russia has also jailed more than 70 Ukrainians as political prisoners.
And the main problem is, of course, that the fate of these people is not negotiated anywhere. So we have Minsk process, so-called Minsk process, but at that level only hostages of so-called LPR and DPR are negotiated. But no place, no city, nothing where would politicians talk about the people who are held in Crimea and in Russian Federation. So that is the problem.
Here in central Kiev, outside the Russian embassy, protesters have gathered to complain about Russia still being allowed to stage the World Cup. But sadly, for these protesters, the World Cup itself will also continue.
Сімцову свободу! Сімцову свободу! Слава Україні!
But these protesters also highlight one businessman well known in football circles, Grigory Syrkis, who is vice president of UEFA and the former head of the Ukrainian Football Federation.
Публічно я не чула, щоб він засуджував цей чемпіонат.
Суркіс – це давній друг Медведчука, можете звернути увагу. Ми також, активісти тривають плакати з зверненням до Суркіса, який лобіював участь України в відбірковому турі і те, щоб чемпіонат відбувався на території Російської Федерації. Це давні вороги України.
Viktor Medvedchuk is a well-known business and political figure in Ukraine. He's a former member of parliament who was once censored for bias and abuse of office, and later he became chairman of the pro-Russian organization Ukraine Choice. In November 2013, Medvedchuk condemned the fledgling Euromaidan protests. Within hours, riot police savagely beat unarmed students in the square. In 2014, Medvedchuk was placed on the US sanctions list following Russia's armed takeover of Crimea. Separating the links between politics and sport is notoriously difficult, particularly here in Ukraine. So I've come to Verkhovna Rada, the Ukrainian parliament, to try to find out more.
Oligarchs prefer to keep them away from political tensions because their business connected with politics. So they prefer to stay away from this, not just to be involved in any political disputes openly, because they don't want to have problems.
Grigory Syrkis was for a decade the head of Ukrainian football and the former owner of Dynamo Kiev, where he was succeeded by his younger brother, Ihor. In 1995, while Grigory was president, Dynamo was found guilty of trying to bribe a referee in a European game, and UEFA banned the club from competition, and Ihor Syrkis was banned from all football for a year. Nevertheless, within a few years, the elder Syrkis was on UEFA's top table, and the younger brother was running Ukraine's most popular football club.
Українські медіа, і також це є відомо і українським спецслужбам, те, що з 2015 року від першого візиту Суркіса і Медведчука до Петербургу відбувалися консультації з приводу проведення, скажімо, чемпіонату і сприяння Суркіса через його можливості і позиції в УЄФА, щоб цей чемпіонат відбувся саме в Росії.
Ivan Verbitsky is a respected football journalist in Ukraine.
На рахунок патріотизму Суркіса, ви от згадували до того, що Динамо начебто в порівнянні з Шахтарем патріотичніший клуб, але коли йшла Революція Гідності, коли вона вже закінчилася, Ігор Суркіс до останнього, коли вже в Дніпрі лунала українська музика, коли там були червоно-чорні прапори, стадіоні в Києві ще заборонялося це все. Брати Суркіси до останнього ж хотіли грати в об'єднаному чемпіонаті з «Зенітом», з «Спартаком». Вони хотіли чогось на зразок чемпіонату Совєтського Союзу. Тобто я б не сказав, що Григорій Суркіс там великий патріот України.
Ukrainian football has been badly hit by the war with Russia in many different ways. There's less money in the Ukraine Premier League now, and some oligarchs pulled funding, and big names such as Metalist Kharkiv and Dnipro collapsed. Dnipro were in the UEFA Europa League final as recently as 2015. Another former champion of Ukraine is also missing from the top flight these days. Tavria Simferopol won the first ever independent Ukrainian title in 1992. But when Russia annexed the peninsula in 2014, the club had to reform on the mainland, a long way from the city bearing the club's name. But now another side uses the name in the occupied territory and also uses their stadium.
На самом деле команда Таврия Симферополь одна, которая играет в чемпионате Украины во второй лиге. То, что создано в Крыму, это не Таврия Симферополь, это футбольный клуб ТСК. И это фейковый футбольный клуб, создан оккупантами в целях пропаганды.
The beautiful French town of Evian is the unlikely setting for Ukraine's last match before the World Cup. And after Andrei Shevchenko's side failed to qualify for Russia 2018, interest is somewhat low in this friendly international against Albania. How different it could have been. Failure to beat Croatia in the last round of qualifiers meant that Ukraine missed the chance to appear at only their second ever World Cup finals. But it also meant the thorny question of whether to play in Russia while war is raging in southeast Ukraine has been skipped. Ukraine thrashed Albania in this friendly ahead of their next engagement in September in the new competition, the UEFA Nations League, when they'll face Slovakia and the Czech Republic.
It's a group very balanced, and then we play equal teams, and then it's very important also because it gives you chance to qualify for the Euro.
Some regrets at not going to Russia?
Of course, always. The football season, is important. But whatever has happened in the past, we need to concentrate for the future now.
Finally, difficult question. What's it like for a Ukrainian watching the World Cup in Russia, bearing in mind what's happening?
Yes. We are everyone is here so sad, about the situation, but everyone dreaming about World Cup.
Many Ukrainians say they won't be watching. Will you be watching the World Cup?
Yeah, I think so. Of course, it's a big competition, the biggest in the world, so yeah, I think so.
It's a pity that we are not in World Cup, but anyway, we will be in the next Euro Championship. In ways that no Ukrainian players could play in Russia, and we can't go as a team and can't as supporters to support the team in Russians and so on. Also, UEFA did the decision to split the Ukrainian teams and Russian teams in Europe Champions League and the Europa League. So it's a political decision, and we need to follow it as well.
It's a bit upset because we believe that Ukraine should have been there, like in this World Cup championship. But from another side, it's World Cup in Russia, so maybe it's not so.
Nonetheless, plans for the World Cup in Russia continued, with or without Ukraine's support. And despite the ongoing FBI investigation into corruption and FIFA's own Garcia report, and Russia avoiding sanctions.
But what happened when they investigated? They set this super sleuth, Swiss fellow. And he went, I don't think he went to Russia, but he rang up and said, "Can we see your computers, please?" And the answer was, "Oh, sorry, we haven't got them now. Oh, sorry to have bothered you." That was it, bang, no computers, no World Cup. because it's a lie. They've got no computers. Because they rented computers for the bid, and when the bid was over, they handed them back, and they all got destroyed. That again was just another reason to say, go away. Look, you smell, right? We don't like the smell coming from Moscow. Goodbye. But they didn't. Everybody's taken their money.
In 1980, most Western nations boycotted the Moscow Olympics after the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. In 2014, Russia took Crimea. It has also been held responsible by the Joint International Criminal Investigation Team for the shooting down of the civilian airline MH17 over eastern Ukraine. The 4th anniversary is 2 days after the 2018 World Cup final. But still, FIFA refused to act.
I personally think, yes, they should have been banned. I think they should also, have been held to account for actions that they've taken. But the difficulty you get is the people's love of sport and not wanting to mix the two. So it's about integrity. I think, as I said earlier, that there ought to be a third party that takes an overview about whether bidding processes are fair, but also takes a view about the integrity of a sport. Is an individual person or an individual government or an individual state using their powers to either be corrupt or to stop other people being involved? And I think that still needs to happen.
Grigory Surkis previously said it was too late to change the host nation, but was he keen to protect Russian friends? Ukraine's newly empowered anti-corruption units have launched official inquiries into Ukraine's energy market, and in April a former Ukraine MP, Dmytro Khrushchev, was arrested on suspicion of embezzlement. Minority shareholder in the company under investigation is Grigory Surkis, and in 2016 the Surkis brothers were summoned by the NABU for questioning. The case is continuing.
Проблема Запоріжжяобленерго полягала в тому, що це банальне бажання вивести з компанії гроші. І воно було реалізовано, на жаль. Наслідком цього стало те, що регулятор же не може за рахунок суспільства, власне кажучи, покривати. Хтось вивів гроші, давайте цю дірку закриємо, піднімемо тарифи і закриємо. Наслідком цього стало те, що компанія поставлена регулятором в наджорсткі умови, не виплачується заробітна плата. Дірка створилась величезна дірка.
An anti-corruption MP explained to me how oligarchs may have scammed the energy market.
This is a call delivered from Europe to Ukraine with a high quality and with a high tariff of transportation and with a high price. But in reality, this is a call from Ukraine, either from occupied territory or from Ukrainian territory, and very cheap, low quality. And this is how surplus profit is arranged in the system. And this decision to make such formula is decision of so-called independent energy regulator, who is not independent because for almost 3 years, head of this regulator was former employee of Poroshenko company, and he was appointed by Poroshenko himself.
Будучи віце-президентом УЄФА, Григорій Суркіс, і будучи громадянином України, Григорій Суркіс як мінімум не заперечив про те, що цей чемпіонат має відбуватися в Російській Федерації. Більше того, медіа, які підконтрольні Медведчуку Суркісу, журналісти, блогери, ціла така сфера, скажімо, людей, які дотримуються проросійських поглядів, вони навпаки активно розкручують в Україні цю тему, що це лише спорт, не треба сюди прив'язувати війну.
Много людей я не вижу, и это, наверное, хорошо. Зачем нам смотреть українцям матч збірної Росії, правильно?
Можливо, в Україні якось не надто викликала ажіотаж вивіска Росія-Саудівська Аравія. Можливо, все-таки очікувалося якусь топ-збірну у матчі відкриття?
Я думаю, наверное, все-таки это не очень правильно. То есть страна-агрессор, которая захватывает чужие территории, и ей дают, ее не забирают такой турнир, и они соглашаются, дают свое добро такое на это все. Естественно, мне кажется, что было бы правильно все-таки перенести в другое место, потому что современном мире не должно такого как бы происходить.
We asked Grigori Surkis for an interview, but he failed to reply to our emails.
Я, конечно, зол, и зол, потому что Суркис помогал России получить чемпионат мира, плюс помогал сохранить чемпионат мира, как пишут СМИ. То есть, конечно, это очень сильно злит и раздражает. Мало того, что мы с этой страной воюем, и что касается Федерации футбола Крыма, она сейчас расхлебывает проблемы, которые создала Россия с окупації Криму. Тому це, звісно, недостойний поступок, як я вважаю.
В нашій країні можливо все. Зараз в «Динамо» прийшов Євген Красніков, про якого ми згадували, який був відсторонений УЄФА, ФІФА, вірніше КАС, міжнародним спортивним арбітражем за те, що за організацію договірного матчу «Металіст Карпати». Але він продовжував вже 2 роки продовжував бути президентом обласної федерації Харківщини, і зараз його запросили в київське «Динамо», хоча срок дискваліфікації в нього ще не завершився.
So, of course, the World Cup went ahead, and no one was particularly surprised when ex-FIFA boss Sepp Blatter turned up in Russia, even though in 2015 FIFA banned him from all football for 8 years, but in 2016 this was reduced on appeal to 6 years. When he met Putin at the World Cup, it was confirmation the two had a lot to thank each other for.
And that vote in itself should never have been, Blatter shouldn't have been allowed to get away with it. Because what it basically was the old guys thinking, Christ, I might not be around for the bribe next time, so we'll do 2 lots of bribes.
Окрім цього, непрямим фактом, що, власне, і корупція, і політика переважили, власне, чесність в визначенні місця проведення чемпіонату, є той факт, що, власне, Григорій Суркіс і Віктор Медведчук були певними посередниками в організації цього чемпіонату. І про це є достовірні факти.
While Oleg Komunya dreams about returning to Crimea and one day seeing his beloved Tavria Simferopol play again in the Ukrainian Premier League, maybe at the Olimpijski and Ukraine's other grounds, the wait goes on. The wait for an end to corruption in Ukraine, an end to the Russian occupation of Crimea, and an end to the war in East Ukraine.
Countries like Russia are not averse to using whatever powers they think are appropriate to get in their own way, and that can't be right.